Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Win. Today we're going to talk about the NFL trades.
Yeah, there's a lot of trades, but most of the notable moves were like signings, like cuts, and then signing with different teams and unrestricted free agents moving off. So
Okay.
we're just going to talk about different moves, and I'll just say what I think about them since I barely know anything about the NFL and Brad doesn't know anything about the NFL. So you'll get a brilliant insight here.
Cool. All right, so the first one that we'll talk about is Marcus Peters went to the Rams.
Yeah, so Marcus Peters, he's like an Oakland guy. He's got that Marshawn Lynch attitude, F the world against Oakland. And in the point where Kansas City and Oakland, they're in a division with each other. And there was a fight on the field, like some Chiefs against Marshawn Lynch, who plays for the Raiders. Peters is like throwing haymakers at his own team. He's like, no, you don't mess with the Oakland guy. So that's notable because he kind of has he had a really bad attitude problems and behavioral problems in college. I think, I think he went to UW, University of Washington.
Okay.
And he was kicked off the team, still like a first round pick. He was just kicked off the team there. The Chiefs took him. He's been incredible. He led the league in interceptions as a rookie, I believe. But they couldn't lock him down into a long-term contract, and this was the last year of his deal. So it's kind of a blockbuster that he got traded, but it does make sense because they couldn't really extend him. I don't guess it's not that he didn't want to be there; it's that they couldn't guarantee he'd be there after this year. So they traded him to the Rams. I think it's a good move. It's a good move. He's 25. He wants to be in California. I feel like being an Oakland guy. So I think it's a good move for the Rams, especially because of other moves they made, which we'll talk about later. But for a grade, I would say it's like a B. I'm sure they gave up some good pieces, and a good phrase for this is addition by subtraction for the Chiefs.
Okay. So it looks like the Jaguars signed Blake Bortles.
Yeah, they re-signed him.
Okay.
So they drafted him third overall in the 2014 draft. He's been a really inconsistent guy. He's still super young. He's only 25. They call him the garbage time king because in fantasy, I play NFL fantasy a lot, he'll be just really, really bad, and they'll be down, 4 touchdowns, and then he just catches fire. He'll throw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in the last 7 minutes, but they'll lose by 3 touchdowns. But this year, somehow the Jags have been you got the Browns at the ground level, then first floor, second floor, that's been the Jaguars for 7 or 8 years. This year they went to the AFC Championship game. Just somehow. Their defense is just elite. Their offense just put it together. They drafted Leonard Fournette. And there's a lot of speculation with Bortles because he's been inconsistent. I wouldn't call him bad. This year he was cautiously good, I think is a good way to put it. Cautiously good. There's a stretch of 6 games where he threw a lot of touchdowns and not a lot of interceptions. And he had a revolving door at wide receiver. His top 2 receivers were just injured the whole year. Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns. They're just out. And this guy was just lighting up the league with these practice squad players they kept pulling in. So there was a lot of speculation that they were not going to re-sign Bortles. They were going to try to bring in Kirk Cousins. They're going to try to bring in Eli Manning, just whoever. But they re-signed him 3 years, $54 million. I think that's an A move because you have a locker room where it's really apparent that all the players respect Bortles. There's an interview. Jarrell Casey plays for the Titans. He was talking some crap about Bortles. And so after the Titans lost, the Jags wanted to go to the AFC Championship game. Calais Campbell, who's the veteran leader of the defense and a 32-year-old guy, is what's Jarrell Casey got to say about Bortles now? He's going to the champion, it's a chemistry thing. This is addition by, doing addition. Nothing, addition by addition. So I think it's a good move. I like the move a lot. I'm a big fan of Bortles. I think he can't do any worse than last year.
You think well, we know from just what we've seen in the NBA that you got to have the locker room on your side for sure,
Yeah, I agree. It's a chemistry thing, man. A team like that wasn't expected to win 4 or 5 games, and they're 3 points away from beating the Pats and going to the Super Bowl. So I think it's a good, like, why break it up?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good move. I think it's like an A move.
Don't fix it, make it broken.
Yes, perfect.
Instead of like an addition, let's talk next about a subtraction. So the Bears.
The Bears.
They released Mike Glennon.
Mike Glennon, good. They signed Mike Glennon to I don't use this word lightly. I'm very sorry if it offends people. They signed him to a retarded contract last year. Like, it was bad. He backed up Jameis Winston for 2 years, and like he was a starter for 1 year on the bad Bucks team. He was like, somehow he was like the best quarterback available in free agency that year. And man, people went wild over him. The Bears gave him this huge contract and then proceeded to give him a ton of picks to move up to the number 2 spot and take Mitch Trubisky from North Carolina, who took over the starting spot from Glennon after like 6 quarters or something. And so, like, it makes sense. Like, just cut him. You got your franchise guy in Trubisky. Yeah. It makes sense.
They were giving him a lot of money for work.
A plus move.
That was a sweet gig for him, though.
Hell yeah, it is.
So much money just.
You talk about that.
Chilling.
Let's freaking talk about Bradford later and talk about sweet gigs.
Panthers released Jonathan Stewart.
It's a good move. I think it's like a B plus move. They got rookie Christian McCaffrey. He's kind of a do it all utility back. Stewart's just like a bruiser kind. Like run up the middle. He can't run outside. He's just too big and too old at this point. I mean, he's 30. They spent like an 8th overall pick on McCaffrey. It was time. When it's like it's time to move on. There's just not really a place for him there. So I think it's a good move. I'm sure he landed somewhere already, so I think it's a good move to release him.
All right. What would you say, A?
I think I said B plus.
B plus.
Yeah.
Jets release Muhammad Wilkerson.
Yeah, it's a great move. I think it's an A plus, which is funny because the extension they gave him 2 years ago was also an A plus. It doesn't make sense. So he was like a first round pick in 2011, right? He had like a crazy good. There was a time when the Jets had like the best defensive line in football, and Muhammad Wilkerson was like the man, right? But then they gave him this huge extension, like crazy big extension for a defensive player like that, and he's been awful. He was just fucking. He was hot garbage. He was so bad. So A plus, dude, cut him.
Get rid of him.
If he doesn't want to be there, if he wants to just sit there and get a paycheck, cut him. Let him go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move.
I mean, you can't spend all that money for nothing.
Hell yeah, I agree. It's just, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to leave him on the roster, so good move. A plus move.
Kurt Coleman goes to the Saints.
Kurt Coleman goes to the Saints. 3 year, $18 million. That's a tough one. 3 years, that's not a lot of money to give to a safety, but Coleman is 29, which is kind of old for a safety already. So you're saying he's going to be a $6 million player at 32, which, I mean, the Saints are in like a win now mode with Drew Brees being 40 and, just a lot of their core players being a little bit older. So it makes sense to give that kind of money to them. The reason I maybe don't like it is it just means they're not going to re-sign Kenny Vaccaro, who was a big part of their secondary for a long time. So, I don't know, C,
C.
like a C. Yeah, it's
Average.
It's if it works out, cool. But if it doesn't, you're paying $6 million to a 32-year-old, that's just a liability,
Falcons, here's what they did. They re-signed Matt Bryant.
A plus. Absolutely A plus. If you get a kicker like Matt Bryant, you re-sign that motherfucker to however much money he wants. He's 42 years old, but he's still so freaking good, dude. He's 14th all time in made field goals. And let's see, his stats 34 for 39 overall, 8 for 9 on field goals from 50 plus yards. Didn't miss an extra point. Dude, that's the model of consistency. When you get guys like that, or guys like Vinatieri or Gostowski or Janikowski, dude, you give them whatever they want to stay. So I think A plus.
A plus.
Because it's a position you don't think about, But, when a kicker misses a kick, you're like, why is that guy even in the pros?
Yeah.
But when a guy makes it, you're like, yeah, it's his job. He should do
Yeah.
that. And that guy just does his
You got one
job.
job to do. You got one job to do. Eagles get Michael Bennett. Let's talk about that.
Michael Bennett. There is not, and I say this without you having any knowledge of the NFL, there is not a more polarizing player in the NFL than Michael Bennett.
Why is that? Tell me.
Okay, he's like LeBron. You either love LeBron and you will defend him at every turn, or you hate him. Like, you hate him and you'll do anything to diss him. And this guy is just like that. Like, he is so like the Black Lives Matter move, which I support. I'm all about it. But he's like, F the cops, kind of, So he's what the media wanted Kaepernick to be.
All lives.
Yeah, he's like what the media wanted Kaepernick to be. There was one point he fabricated a story, being in Las Vegas with his brother, Martellus, who also plays in the league for the Pats. They were in Las Vegas, and he got like assaulted by the cops and stuff. He made up this whole thing, like he was assaulted, he was like wrongfully searched and a bunch of stuff. And then like it came out that they released some footage of them on that night. They're like, no, this never happened at any point when he said it did. Like, the time frames didn't match. And it just turned out to be a big lie. And like I'm pretty sure he knelt for the anthem and stuff like that. Plus, he's super old. The Seahawks are in like, they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, like 4 years ago. But they're just like getting rid of all their players now. They're trying to go younger because like the Legion of Boom or whatever, pretty old. So now they're just getting younger and younger and younger. So I think it's a weird move from the Eagles because they just came off a Super Bowl and have a really fucking good defensive line, and it doesn't make sense to add him. They did lose Vinny Curry, I think.
Seems like a lot of drama.
A+ for the Seahawks to get him out of there.
Yeah.
But Bennett in the 7th round pick for Marcus Johnson in the 5th round, like, it's a B move for both teams. Like, it just doesn't. I don't think it's gonna matter to either team.
Giants get Alec Ogletree.
He doesn't fit Wade Phillips' system. He's the one they signed to an extension. It just doesn't make sense. Ogletree in a 7th for a 4th and a 6th round pick. You sign this dude to a lot of money. It doesn't really make sense just to trade him for not a lot. For a guy that's just really consistent, really just comes to work, does his job. He's not dramatic. He doesn't demand a lot of money. He's just like a really good dude. A+ move for the Giants, like a C move for the Rams.
Gotcha.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
The Titans, they released DeMarco Murray.
So I would say like a B. He was really good with the Cowboys, right?
Okay.
So he was good enough. He won the 2014 Offensive Player of the Year with the Cowboys. Immediately said, F the Cowboys. They don't want to pay me like a premier running back, which he wasn't. To be fair, he wasn't. Dallas's offensive line was just the best in NFL history that year. So he goes to the Eagles on this ridiculous contract. Doesn't do anything in Chip Kelly's system with the Eagles. They cut him. He signs with the Titans. He has a really, really good year. I believe it was 2016. Yeah, he had 1,200 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns in 2016, which is a really good year. He was like a really big pickup in fantasy because people wouldn't draft him and they could pick him up. And he had like a crazy year. He was like one of the best backs that year. But last year he was like injured, and I don't know. He just wasn't. He, like, running backs have a shelf life, right? He just really showed his age. It wasn't good, and they had the Derrick Henry. They drafted the Derrick Henry, the Heisman winner from Alabama. So it's like it'll be his 3rd year, and he really like showed glimpses of being a good lead back. So I think it's a good move, like a B.
The Buccaneers re-signed Ryan Fitzpatrick.
A+.
A+.
Best backup quarterback in the NFL, and it's not even close.
I'll be honest. I remember. Do you remember when they changed their logo to the flag?
No.
You don't?
No.
I remember their old logo. I like their old logo.
I remember it. I just don't remember the time they swapped it. A+ move. Fitzpatrick's very good when he's very good when you don't really need him to be. I mean, I don't know. Like, he played.
There's no pressure.
He was good. Like, he played for the Jets, and he was just incredible. Like, the Jets had nothing to play for. He was just like so efficient. He was just like a really good quarterback that year, like a top 15 quarterback. They re-signed him to a lot of money. Went to shit. Like, he was just awful. But then the Bucks signed him on a 1-year deal. Jameis went down. He had a good stretch of like 3 or 4 games. 3 games. Went 2-1 as a starter. 7 touchdowns, 3 picks. You can't ask for more from a backup.
Yeah.
Best backup in the league for sure. A-plus move.
So the Rams acquired Aqib Talib, and they also got Sam Shields.
Yes. Aqib Talib. He's another polarizing guy. Everywhere he's been. Where's he been? He's been like in Tampa, he's been in New England, and he's been in Denver, and now LA. He's a guy like he's really good at what he does, and he's gonna let you know about it. Mm-hmm. He's like 32 now, like he's old, but he was still pretty elite. I don't see him falling off very much, and I don't think the Rams didn't give him much for him, like a 5th round pick. But Denver's like they're like Seattle. They're just going youth movement. Like they won that Super Bowl with a dominant defense, so they're trying to get rid of the expensive contracts and go younger and get the next generation in.
Which should be cheaper in the long run.
Right.
As well.
I see they'll probably draft like Denzel Ward or something in the draft. And Sam Shields. It's a 1-year contract, I believe. He has been, when he can stay on the field, he's very good. But he has really bad concussion issues. So he just,
that means
it's just
he
constant.
Should stop.
It's constant. Like playing for the Packers, it's like one game, like he's so good, he's locking up the number 1 receiver. The next game, he's got a concussion or whatever. It's a 1-year deal, like another prove it kind of deal.
Yeah.
He has said that one more concussion and he will retire.
He's got
his next concussion. That's a career. So he's only 30. He didn't even play last year. He played 1 game. He was in concussion protocol all year. So he's fresh. I mean, if he can stay healthy, that's a good lineup. You got Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, Sam Shields.
Richard Sherman is no longer with the Seahawks.
A+ for Sherman for the Seattle. I feel like he could have traded him. He's getting pretty old. He had like an Achilles injury into this season. That's really hard to return from. Being his age, like that's what Kobe went down with. Yeah. It's just really hard. I understand why they cut him because they're trying to go youth movement, trying to shed contracts. I think it's a good move. It's a good move for Sherman because he did sign with the 49ers, the most heated rival for the Seahawks. So that's going to be fun.
That'll be fun whenever they play. Jarvis Landry went to the Browns.
A+, boy. My freaking Browns. Jarvis Landry is the best slot receiver in the NFL. I don't know. He's like one of the first receivers to go for 1,000 yards and so many catches in his first 3 years. And he played in Miami. He had like as bad quarterback play in Miami as Cleveland has had. Mm-hmm. So I think what did they give up? Like a 4th and a 6th? Just not much for him. Dolphins franchise tagged him. He wants to be in Cleveland. He said, "I'll sign in Cleveland if they don't tag him." They did tag him. Cleveland trades for him. They're working on a contract now. A+ move. That's like Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, Jarvis Landry. That's the best receiving core in the NFL.
Now, did Deshaun Kaiser, did he play for the Browns?
He did.
Okay, so the Browns lost Deshaun Kaiser. They got Jarvis Landry. They also got Demetrius Randall, and they got Tyrod Taylor as well.
Yes.
Or Taylor.
So, Deshaun Kaiser. I don't know why the Packers traded it for him. I give a C to the Packers, not just for acquiring Kaiser, but for trading Demarius Randall, who's been a really solid corner for them, and the Packers are really, really thin at the secondary position. So to trade like one of your number 2 corner for a backup to a backup, essentially, is what Kaiser's going to be. Doesn't make a lot of sense. B for Cleveland acquiring Randall and only giving up Kaiser. So I like that move. I already said I like the Landry move. Tyrod Taylor, as sad as it is the second or first best quarterback in Browns history. And he hasn't played a snap for them. He played for the Bills. He led the Bills to their first...
so that's a name move on the Browns.
I think so. A lot of people don't like it because we're going to draft a quarterback anyway. We're going to draft Sam Darnold first overall. A lot of people don't like it, but like a team that has no quarterback success in how many years now? 20 years or whatever. Like, it's sad that Taylor's like the best quarterback in history and he hasn't even played a snap. He led the Bills to the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. I don't know. The Bills just didn't appreciate him. They wanted to go with somebody younger. He's on a good contract. He's still pretty young. He's a good bridge quarterback for Darnold. I think it's a good move.
Looks like the Browns also lost Danny Shelton to the Patriots.
I hate that move.
Well, he's going to make it all the way to the Super Bowl and then lose at the end. I hate that move.
I really liked Danny Shelton. We drafted him way too high, but I think he was solid. That's what I'll say. He was solid at his position. It makes sense to get rid of him. I mean, that just means we'll draft someone, but he's making a lot of money and due for an extension, so makes sense.
Chiefs release Tamba Hawley.
He was like a premier pass rusher when he was in his prime. He's 34. He's eating up a large amount of the cap space, and he's just not on the field. So it makes sense. He's a Chiefs legend, but it was going to happen.
Bears sign Allen Robinson.
This is a good move. On a decent contract, he was very good with Bortles in Jacksonville. The Bears have no wide receiver depth at all. Like they were trotting out guys that like probably weren't even starters in college. They had so many injuries and they lost so much in free agency. Good move for them, I think. It's a good contract, and Allen Robinson is very talented.
The Bronx signed Casey Keenum.
Yes. He led the Vikings to a crazy season after Bradford went down and Bridgewater was still out. I really thought they were going to re-sign him. They ended up taking Kirk Cousins, which I'd take Kirk Cousins over Keenum any day. But this is a weird signing because Keenum has been like really mediocre everywhere else he's been. He's been in LA, he's been in Houston, and now he's been in in Minnesota. So he was really good in Minnesota. Wasn't good in those other places. I think it's a weird contract. Like the Broncos needed a quarterback, and they traded their starter from last year. It makes sense to sign someone, but I don't like the move. I don't like it. I really don't. I feel like there were better options. You might as well just trade up and draft your guy instead of going after Keenum. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Sammy Watkins goes to the Chiefs.
You want to talk about a guy that gets paid for nothing? Watkins has been nothing but injured since he's been in the league. He's got burners, man. He's so fast, but he just can't stay on the field. It's like 3 years, $48 million. That's more than Allen Robinson got, and Allen Robinson has only been injured like last year.
$48 million. Yeah, he's never. How many downs has he played?
I mean, he's played like half of a season each of the last 3 or 4 seasons. He's just. Like, he's really good when he's in, but, you just don't ever know when that's going to be.
He's like, what is it? He's like a Roman candle.
A Roman candle?
Yeah, in the firework world. Because those things are really cool, but they don't last very long. They're like real cool, real fast.
Yeah.
You can use them against other people really well. Roman candle wars. But they don't last very long at all. Pew! Pew!
Shit.
Right?
The Chiefs needed the receiver depth. That is a good analogy. Chiefs needed the receiver depth. I don't like the signing, though.
The Vikings signed Kirk Cousins from the Chiefs.
Okay, so this is an A+ move for Kirk Cousins. This is an A+ move for the Vikings and an A+ move for the quarterback market going forward in the NFL. So the thing with NBA contracts, right, in basketball, if LeBron, he gets 5 years, $130 million guaranteed. Like if he tore his ACL game 1 of that first year, he would get that contract. If he never played another game, he would get that contract. But in the NFL, like Allen Robinson, he got 3 years, $42 million, probably like $18 million guaranteed. So the rest of it is like incentive bonus. So you got to hit this certain milestone or this certain achievement. Like if you get 1,500 receiving yards, like you'll get a $2 million bonus. There's like a player this past year for the Falcons, if he got 5 sacks, he would get $600,000. He got 4.5 sacks against the Cowboys in one game. And so he like triggered one bonus and then another bonus and another. He made like $3 million in one game. But with Kirk Cousins going to the Vikings are incredible. Their defense is elite. Their offense is really solid. They have good receivers. They have a good line, good backs. Kirk Cousins was the best quarterback on the market in like the past 7 years, maybe since Drew Brees. It's a good signing for the Vikings, good signing for Kirk Cousins, and every bit of his 3-year, $86 million contract is guaranteed.
Gosh.
There is no incentive bonus. It's all guaranteed, and that is crazy that NFL still do non-guaranteed contracts. It's crazy, but now it's guaranteed. Every elite quarterback you see going on the market, when Jameis Winston hits the market, if Eli hits the market again, if Aaron Rodgers ever hits the market, every bit of their contract will be guguaranteed.
That's crazy.
Anytime a star player comes up, it's going to be guaranteed. I have no doubt.
That's insane. How much money they get to play a game?
I agree.
I'd do it though.
That's like the best. That's the biggest signing like in the past, maybe since Drew Brees went from the Chargers to the Saints.
Sam Bradford goes to the Cardinals.
Yeah, so he gets paid a lot of money to do nothing. It's a bad move. It's a C move for the Cardinals because A+ for the Bradford, obviously. I don't know how the dude keeps getting paid. If he's good for the Cardinals, then it's a good contract. If he's bad for the Cardinals, then it's like a what the hell were you thinking kind of contract. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to pay him because he's been injured like week 4 with the Vikings, and he was never even active again. Like they didn't ever activate him to the roster again. So it doesn't make sense. I don't know what they saw in the physical to say he's worth $20 million a season. It doesn't make any sense. They also signed Mike Glennon to back him up, so that's going to be a train wreck when that has to happen too. So like a C move. If he's good, it's a good contract. If he's bad, it's a bad contract.
Jimmy Graham went to the Packers.
That's a good move. Aaron Rodgers never seems to have enough threats at wide receiver, and Jimmy Graham is like a power forward in basketball. Dude's like 6'8", can jump out of the building, overjump anybody. There's no one in the league that can body him. He's been playing with Russell Wilson in Seattle for the past few seasons. Been terrible, but he was with Drew Brees in New Orleans before that and was the best tight end in the NFL. So good, A+. I think it's an A+ signing.
A+ signing. That's what you want.
That's what you want.
Anytime I hear you say, "Nah, man, it's not that good," I haven't heard you say one's an F yet, but I always think like D-. Carlos Hyde going to the Browns.
I think that's a B signing because there was a lot of talk of the Browns taking Saquon Barkley from Penn State at number 1 overall, a running back at number 1. And I thought that was crazy. I thought that was crazy talk to take a running back at 1. So we signed a guy who's been really solid throughout his NFL career. We already have Duke Johnson. We let Isaiah Crowell go in free agency. I think it's a really good move, and it just shuts up all the Barkley at number 1 talk. So it's good. Good signing.
The Texans signed Tyrann Mathieu.
It's a good move. I think it's a good move. I know, it's surprising. Like, all these are good moves. I don't think there were a lot of bad moves made, except the Bradford one. I think the Bradford one, like, you can't say it's an F because of what if he comes up and lights it up. Anyway, we're on Tyrann Mathieu. Stop it. Tyrann Mathieu, he was the honey badger, right? That's what they called him coming out of LSU. He had a lot of, like, behavioral and attitude issues, so he dropped in the draft really far. He was incredible with the Cardinals. Just incredible. Like, he between him and Patrick Peterson, they were, like, the best secondary tandem in the NFL for a long time. But he's torn his ACL twice, and I think he tore it once in college and twice in the pros. He just keeps getting injured. He hasn't played a full season the last 2 seasons. He was on a big contract, and they asked him to take a pay cut. He said no. They released him. Signed with the Texans, who have a really good defense already. I think it's a good move. I don't think they overpaid him, and I think he's in a good spot.
So, as always, it's been For the Win with Ray and Brad.
Well, and hopefully on the all-new NBA All Day Facebook page.
NBA All Day. First thing we're putting up is NFL.
We're trying to change it.
Yeah, they're not letting us change it, but hey.
Facebook's being a bunch of cucks right now.
Oh, man, they are. But I'll tell you what, it's all right. We're going to put whatever we want on it because we run it. So, anyways, until next time, see ya.
Peace.